the Mets. Meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife.
From a flying DeLorean, it's the DigiGods. Please welcome two contributors to the invention of the flux capacitor, Wade Major and Mark Kaiser.
Everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town.
Brought to you by Alexander Berlica. He's the one who made the porcelain wet. When the doc slipped on the wet porcelain in his bathroom and hit his head and invented the flux capacitor. Why was the porcelain wet? Alexander Berlica, that's why.
Corey is a master of the obscure reference connective tissue in nerd jargon. Does that make any sense?
Why am I not talking about the Mets?
I don't know.
Did you hear the song? Did you hear the song?
I heard the song.
Did you hear the song?
I did.
Did I send you the song as an MP4 so you could put it into the show? Yes, you did. Because you know what? The Mets, the National League East champions.
Well, good for them. That makes you happy.
It does. First time in 9 years. So here's what happened. In 2006,
yes,
we were one strike away from going to the World Series until Carlos Beltran didn't take his goddamn bat off his goddamn shoulders.
Yeah.
And he got called out on strike three.
Oh,
bases loaded, 3-2, bottom of the ninth.
Unbelievable.
Broke my heart. Couldn't believe it. I cried. I admit it.
Inexcusable.
Then 2007, 2008, we embarked on two of the most embarrassing and prodigious late season collapses in baseball history.
Yes.
Followed by six losing seasons.
Yes.
And then now we are in the playoffs.
Well, there you go.
We're going to play the Dodgers and get our ass kicked because we're going to face Clayton Kershaw and Zach Greinke. And quite frankly, if I were a betting man, I would rather have Kershaw and Greinke over DeGrom and Harvey and Syndergaard.
Well, there you go.
I'm just saying, but I'm very happy.
I'll take your word for it.
I'm very happy for my Mets. We are National League East champions, Wade.
You know, this is a little word for people who live in Los Angeles, completely independent of the whole Mets thing. Now, you know Sweet Lady Jane, right? They are not a new sponsor of the podcast. No one is paying us to plug Sweet Lady Jane.
If they were a sponsor of the podcast, I'd plot.
You and I would just...
By the way, here's the thing with Sweet Lady Jane.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sure in your town you have a place like this also.
Yes.
But when you go to an office party, a birthday party, any sort of gathering where there's desserts, and you go, oh, what do they have for dessert? Did they bring dessert? And if someone says, yeah, they brought Sweet Lady Jane.
Eyes roll into the back of my head, and I pass out from just sheer elation and joy.
So that's what Sweet Lady Jane is in Los Angeles.
It is. Well, it's a bakery that started over on Melrose in West Hollywood, and everybody knew Sweet Lady Jane. You basically went there for cakes, but it was just lots of other good stuff. There's never any parking, and it's tiny. And if you ate, it's just it was cramped, but you suffered through the crampedness because it's the best bakery there is. Well, anyway, they opened one on Montana in Santa Monica on the west side not too many years ago. Larger space, bigger menu for lunch and whatever. Brunch and whatnot. Good stuff. Good food. Great baked goods all around. Go there all the time.
Is this going somewhere about
Yes. They have a new offering, Mark.
What is it?
They have a new offering.
Peanut butter?
I no longer, when I have a craving for a croissant, at the same time that I have a craving for a knish, and I'm just, which I can't choose. I really, really, really want that goat cheese and spinach knish, but I also really, really, really want a croissant. I no longer have to choose.
Huh? Wait, what is it?
They have a croissant filled with goat cheese and spinach. A goat cheese and spinach croissant. It's a knish croissant. A croissant knish.
What makes it a knish?
A knish.
What makes it a knish?
A croissant. Well, no. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about like not Israeli knishes. I'm talking about like Lebanese knishes, which are not called knishes. They're called something else because knish is Hebrew. There's another thing that. What
are you babbling on about? So you're saying that there's a goat cheese and spinach.
It's a croissant with goat cheese and spinach in it.
First of all, thank you for a story that 99% of our listeners cannot possibly understand or indulge in because they don't live in Los Angeles. But. Is that the first goat cheese and spinach croissant you've ever encountered? Or
ever in my life.
One?
Ever in my life.
I'm sure somewhere in the world there's a goat cheese
I had no idea.
Croissant. No one cares.
I'm never leaving their doorstep.
Okay, here's what people care about.
Yes.
They care about the fact that the Mets are champions of the National League East. They also care about the fact that I made food.
You made food.
Because I figure now this is our second IGN-less show. There are certain things that it seemed like based on Facebook Facebook posts, people wanted us to keep. And when I say us, I mean me, because you don't make jack crap when we do the show.
Well,
want me to keep doing stuff, and that would include recipes. So I made you something.
And there are going to be recipes on the new site.
There are?
Yes. Your recipes.
Well, they're not mine. I take them from recipe books.
Whatever.
But so every time,
if you want to share recipes, there will be a special menu selection for recipes.
Here's what we'll do.
Yes.
Every time I make you something, we will post that recipe, whatever it is,
there you go,
on the site.
Sure.
So slowly over the weeks and months,
brilliant.
We will. You'll be able to make everything I made.
That's it. That's what we want.
Now, would you like this now? No. Okay. First of all, I'm going to approve everything you start with. Okay.
Do you know? Well, there's a reason why we're starting with that.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. It's not like a super release, but it's cool.
Well, did you see it? You saw it, right?
No.
You didn't see this?
No.
Oh, dude. We are talking about this week's Draft House release of The Connection, a French film starring Jean Dujardin and Gilles Lelouch. The reason we're starting with this is a Draft House Blu-ray that includes this amazing French film, all 2 hours and 15 minutes of it, along with a phenomenal 50-minute making of documentary, some deleted scenes that are, okay, not really that essential, and a cool trailer, a cool booklet, as well as trailers, and you can get a digital download on this. Digital download, Draft House, going all the way. The reason I'm talking about The Connection, directed by an amazing young director named Cedric Jimenez, who, mark my word, this guy is going to do big Hollywood films, big French films. He'll win an Oscar someday. Remember that name, Cedric Jimenez. He is phenomenal. The film is The Connection, and the reason that I'm starting with this, there's a quote on the cover of the box. Mark, read the quote. Read the quote.
Whenever you say that,
ahead,
there's only one person who could possibly
read the quote. Go ahead, read the quote. On the front. On the front. On the top.
Screw this crap.
Above the title. What does it say?
One of the greatest crime films ever made?
Yes.
It just says NPR.
That's right.
So you're saying that you said that?
I did. I was the one.
Well, you can't substantiate that. How do I know?
You want to see the email chain asking for approval?
Yes, I do.
Really? I'll show it to you. Anyway.
Well, wait a second. So what? Okay. So just so people know.
Yes.
So whoever distributed this or whoever's
Draft House.
So Draft House contacted you.
Yes.
Right? Mm-hmm. And they said, "Hey, Wade, we heard your thing on NPR where you called it the."
Well, I believe there was an exchange at first with a publicist, and he said, "What'd you think?" I said, "One of the greatest crime films ever made." He goes, "Can I quote you on that?" I said, "I'll be saying it on the show on Friday. I mean, wait for the show, wait for Film Week, and make sure that I actually phrase it that way." But I said, "Yeah, I'll be saying that."
Okay, so you say it, and then what happens?
And then he's like, they want to be able to use that in the ads. And I said, yeah, sure, by all means. Just, just give it the attribution, Film Week or whatever you want. And they went with NPR, which isn't quite correct because Film Week is a KPCC show, which is part of Southern California Public Radio, which is an NPR affiliate. That doesn't mean that everything on Film Week's not carried by NPR. It's
carried by a station that's
it's originated by an NPR affiliate. So I mean, there's a little, it's not owned by NPR. But anyway, it's a minor point.
So did you say to them, "Hey man, use my name"?
No, I said, "Do whatever you want."
Did you say, "Hey man, how about DigiGods"?
You know what? I just wanted to help the film in whatever way I could. So hopefully, look, here's the deal: The Connection is based in it's based on a true story. This is essentially the movie. What I said on the show at the time, and I still stand by this. This is basically where the French Connection meets Serpico meets Godfather 2. This is that kind of a movie, and it has all of those elements to it. It is essentially the flip side of the French Connection. This is what takes place in France. That's why it's called The Connection. It's a bit of an homage to the French Connection. But what you have is two figures played respectively by Jean Dujardin and Gilles Lelouch. Gilles Lelouch is the drug kingpin in Marseille. I lived in Marseille, so that's partly why I so closely identify with this thing. It takes place in the 70s and into the early 80s, and I lived in Marseille in the mid 80s. So this is not that far removed from what my experience was. And let me tell you something. The day before I arrived in Marseille, someone was shotgunned to death through the windshield of their car while parked at a stoplight.
They're after you.
That does not happen in Los Angeles. That does not happen in Manhattan.
It happens in L.A. all the time.
No, not somebody pulls up at a stoplight and someone crossing the street whips out a sawed-off and just unloads right through the windshield. That does not happen here. Those kinds of hits don't happen. That's like 1920s era Prohibition Chicago stuff. But it's also what happened in Marseille in the 1920s, or in the 1970s, and 60s and 70s. So in any case, Jean Dujardin plays essentially a judge. He's a magistrate, but it's like in France that means that you're like part police captain, part judge, part probation officer. You're sort of part detective. You're all of these things, right? So he's not just a guy sitting at the bench. He's actually orchestrating, trying to bring down the drug kingpin played by Gilles Lelouch. And this movie is so incredibly well made, it will blow your mind. Everyone who's listening to this show, this isn't recommended for just some of you. This is recommended for all of you. This movie is a clinic in filmmaking, and especially in terms of sound. The way he uses overlapping dialogue, overlapping audio, which he does brilliantly, where two characters will be talking and the dialogue continues and we move to another scene, a flashback or a scene in the future, and the juxtaposition, it is magnificent. The whole thing is like an opera of just brilliant filmmaking. This is, right now, I'm not sure that I've seen a better film all year. And we got some great films coming out at the end of the year. All the Oscar bait is coming, but I mean, there's no way this is not going to wind up in my top 5. It's in my top 5, and it may be right at the very top. It is an amazing film. It's just unfortunate that, Draft House is not a bigger distributor, and that we don't have any really huge distributors right now who throw their kind of weight behind foreign films the way the Weinsteins used to. Or else this thing would have been, gangbusters as far as art house. Amazing movie. So the connection from Draft House, by all means, go and get this. Just buy it and watch it over and over. It's a clinic in how to make a great movie.
So did you like it?
I love it. That's all right. Okay, so how about this? I'll just go through the rest of these foreign, and then I will turn some of this week's new movies over to you.
No, I'm going to get you your food.
Oh, you're going to get me my food. Okay, well, get me the food, and I'll finish off the foreign, because we got a few interesting other titles here in foreign. Got a Mandarin language film called Black Coal Thin Ice by director Diao Yinan. Which was a bit of a big deal all over Asia, China, and various other festivals. It made an appearance at the Berlin Film Festival and broke out. It won the Golden Bear, and it's a big deal. It's being released by Welgo, who their bread and butter are primarily Asian films and primarily Chinese and Thai and Korean films these days. And you know what? I'm surprised that this didn't get sort of a bigger release here, because it is incredibly. It's a cool crime film, and you don't see a lot of cool crime films coming out of China these days. So it's unusual. It's not like a Hong Kong crime film from the 80s or the 90s. This is a straight-up Chinese crime film, and based on a true story about a couple of cops who are sort of trying to redeem themselves by catching the guy who got away from them in the first place. Really an interesting story, very nicely done. So I'd say look for Diao Yinan in the future. Interesting filmmaker, a lot of talent, kind of a part of the new wave. A terrific André Téchiné film from Cohen on Blu-ray called In the Name of My Daughter, starring Catherine Deneuve, Guillaume Canet, and Adèle Haenel. Catherine Deneuve has worked with Téchiné many, many times. It's a very typical Téchiné film, but it's also a little unusual because it's a true story, and it is actually a rather famous story that took place in France in the 1970s primarily, and then you move through time, obviously, to the present day. Interesting family drama that deals with wealth. Oh my gosh!
I have no idea if it tastes good.
What is that?
That is a chocolate mint tart.
Wow. Chocolate mint tart. You got to take a picture of that and put that on the Facebook page. Before I dig into that needs to be that needs to be posted. Wow, that's amazing. That's artistry, Mark. That's artistry.
Well, here's the thing. I don't know what it tastes like.
Okay.
It's good.
Well, let's hope so. Let me finish this, and then we'll dig in. Anyway, essentially, Catherine Deneuve owns a casino, owns and operates a casino. Her daughter is drawn back into the business. There's an unscrupulous lawyer, and a bit of a caper thing that happens, which actually did happen, and it's an amazing story. It is done very. What are you doing?
Oh, I was going to take a picture of
you getting me in it
of the tart with you as you spoke.
Okay.
Well, just
I'm
say
speaking.
things.
Okay, well,
Just
in any
blabber on
case,
about opera, and I'll take your picture.
Okay. Anyway, Catherine Deneuve is wonderful in it, and it's amazing that this story actually happened. And I won't give you any of the sort of the details, but you couldn't write a fictitious story like this. It just wouldn't. No one would believe that these things happened. That these characters did these things. It's pretty great. So that is In the Name of My Daughter by André Téchiné, which was actually at the Cannes Film Festival last year. So a lot of the stuff we're talking about made some good festival appearances.
Smile, Wade. Like the lamest smile ever.
Yeah, well.
As you'll see on Facebook, that was like the lamest smile ever.
That's what I give you. Lame smiles. This showed up in theaters recently and didn't do a whole lot of business, but Sony Pictures Classics released Saint Laurent by Bertrand Bonello, which was also a Cannes Film Festival selection, of course, about Yves Saint Laurent. Very slick, very stylish. As far as biopics go, it is everything that it needs to be. Nothing particularly groundbreaking, but it's just really, really solid and very interesting. It has a bunch of so-so extras. And it's long, 2.5 hours long, by the way. Because the story of Yves Saint Laurent is epic. And then we got a little thing from the good people over at Strand, Love at First Fight, which is a smaller French comedy, just a kind of an unusual love story about a carpenter and a woman who's, a little bit rough and tough. And I'm
going to cut this way.
Okay.
I don't really know what's going to happen.
Go ahead. Do that. Anyway, Adèle Haenel, Kevin Azayas, Antoine Laurent, all good, really, really good actors, good performances. And this thing did
if this thing falls apart, like all the crust crumbles and chocolate oozes out because it's not set yet, then
it'll be okay.
We'll pretend that
it'll be okay.
We'll pretend you baked it.
Anyway, this did very, very well at the French César Awards. It won. It was very popular at Cannes in the Director's Fortnight section. It won Best Actress and New Actor and First Film at the César Awards. It's done very nicely. It doesn't have much of a profile here, but you should check it out if you like French films and if you like funny, sweet, romantic comedy type French films. Love at First Fight. It's very, very slick.
Don't eat it yet.
I'm not going to eat it yet. I'm going to finish off this
another picture.
Patricio Guzman piece. The box set of Patricio Guzman. Patricio Guzman is sort of Chile's most famous director. There are a lot of good directors coming out of Chile today, but they're all sort of in the shadow of Patricio Guzman. And these are 5 of his very, very best films. On 8 DVDs, The Battle of Chile in 3 parts from 1975, 76, and 78. Rather extraordinary. That's sort of what he's known for primarily. Chile, Obstinate Memory, The Pinochet Case, Salvador Allende from 2004, and then the one that really, really put him on everybody's map again most recently in 2010, Nostalgia for the Light, which was a magnificent movie, just a really extraordinary documentary. Anyway, he is he's sort of the soul of Chile, this guy. He's the one that...
You're not in this picture.
I'm not in this picture.
No,
okay, good.
Take a picture
okay.
of this and then the tube slices.
All right, good. Then I'm... All right. Be artistic then and compose. Anyway, Patricio Guzman... 8 DVDs plus a really cool booklet, and this guy, he's the soul of Chile. He's the chronicler of their history and their political conscience, and all the way from Pinochet to the present day, where Chile is really kind of has become the success story in South America. It's the most liberalized economy and the most liberalized democracy, and they're sort of paving the way despite their very, very ugly past. So Guzman now has this wonderful box set for anybody that wants to catch up on it. If you saw Nostalgia for the Light, you know what an amazingly cool, unusual movie that is. All of his work is like that, and especially the Battle of Chile, all 3 parts from 1975, 76, and 78 is just superb.
I'm trying this way.
All right. Is this what we're doing now? We have the eating section of the show where we.
You know what, this makes for some great listening, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Listening to people eat. That's fabulous. It's good radio.
Okay, now I've not tried this yet. It could be terrible.
Oh,
What?
that's interesting.
That's never a good sign.
It tastes like honeysuckle.
What?
Tastes kind of like honeysuckle, like leaves.
You made that up.
What I'm saying is there's a lot of mint.
Oh, really? Is it too minty?
Not too minty. It's just you have to be prepared for it. Oh, it's nice. It's good.
It's not too minty.
No, it's good. Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, that's all right.
Huh.
Well done, baker. So you're into baking. I could never bake. Baking is chemistry. Cooking is art. I can't getting all those perfect. There's too much precision in baking.
That's true. Like, there's always like another challenge. Like, for instance, and by the way, if you read up enough about this stuff, you find ways around all the challenges.
Right.
Like for instance, get this. So this tart, for the life of me, I could not get the tart off the baking pan.
And why is that?
You know, it's a molded aluminum pan.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you put it in the oven and then you remove it from the pan and put it on the serving plate. I could not get because this crust was in the pan for hours, baking, right? I couldn't get it off the pan. There's a hack for that. If you're having trouble, if you bake something, and there might be certain cooking recipes where this is also helpful. If you're having trouble getting a pastry out of its aluminum pan, here's what you do: you take a piece of dental floss,
You're kidding,
you run
right?
it underneath, back and forth.
That's kind of amazing.
Underneath the pan, and it loosens it right up.
That's sort of amazing.
See? There you go.
All right.
That's what the kids call a hack.
All right. Well, there you go. So let's okay. So we have some really cool high profile docs, and we've got first run films. What are we going to jump into this week? The first run films this week.
I'm eating.
You're eating? Okay. So you want me to just blow through the first run films because they're kind of crappy this week. Next week we got the event. You know, we got the Avengers, like the actual freaking final product 3D Blu-ray mama deal. The thing they never would send us before. Ike Perlmutter gets sidelined over there, and next thing you know, everything's good again.
Well, we thought Feig was the problem. Turns out Perlmutter was
No, it's
the problem.
Perlmutter was the problem, yeah. Cheapskate, who's never given an interview, ever, in his entire career. Like 86-year-old billionaire, whatever he is. Come on, guy. You're not that important. Anyway, all right. Keep eating. I'll roll through this stuff. You know what? I'm going to nail a couple of docs here real quickly because we got a whole Disney thing going on. Tina Fey narrated Disney Nature's release of Monkey Kingdom. You know, I have a friend. You know my friend William, the computer programmer guy.
Yes, who retired 20 years ago. He's so rich.
Yeah, who I went to kindergarten with, and he just sits around and plays video games.
William put me in a Madden game.
Yeah,
When he would.
he did me too. He did me
Madden.
too. Yeah.
He
put all his friends in one of his John Madden games when he was writing them for Sega. Yeah, that's true.
Electronic Arts.
He just sits around. He charges his Tesla all day now. Anyway, the reason I mentioned my friend William is because he is deeply, deeply offended by movies that have monkeys in them. He doesn't believe that monkeys should ever appear on screen. I'm not sure why. It's just a thing. He thinks monkeys are just creepy and should never actually ever be filmed. They should just be left in the jungle where they belong. In any case, Monkey Kingdom, unless you're somebody who is offended by the presence of monkeys on the big screen, Monkey Kingdom is pretty great. This is the what did you just do? Mark just dropped something. It was a very professional show. Anyway, the whole Disney Nature team really does great documentaries. They've got this thing down to a science. It's a wonderful subsidiary over there at Disney, and these films all do really, really well, and they have a great shelf life, and people like it. It's good for kids. It's good for everybody. Anyway, they're kind of putting the luster back on the classic nature documentary, and here they go to the jungles of South Asia And they essentially look at the drama of this family of monkeys, and it's wonderful, and the photography is extraordinary, and it's done beautifully, and the way the story's put together is gorgeous. Tina Fey, great narration, really makes you feel for our simian kin, and. Then we also have on the Disney front, you probably caught it recently on PBS, it's now on DVD, is the American Experience documentary on Walt Disney. He Made Believe, Walt Disney. Anyway, it's really an extraordinary documentary. It's 4 hours long, goes into every single aspect of his life, the ups, the downs. Disney had a lot of struggles early on. There were moments when that studio could entirely have collapsed. The animators strike. I mean, all of these really fascinating ins and outs, where he deserves credit, where he deserves a little less credit, where others need to share the credit. It's really, if you've ever wanted to get really inside the entire Disney phenomenon, everything behind the name, the man, the other supporting players. What a great documentary. American Experience, Walt Disney, Made Believe. And it's really one of the best things American Experience has ever done. A few other docs, so I can save some time for Mark to join in on the other regular movies. Harper Lee, From Mockingbird to Watchmen. Of course, Harper Lee's all the rage again now with Go Set a Watchman, the long after the fact sequel to Kill a Mockingbird. This is from First Run Features, a very, very solid documentary that looks at Harper Lee and gets quite inside who she was and why she's important. And it is... It's not going to be the final word on this, but it gets a lot of great people to join in and give their 2 bits, including Oprah and Scott Turow, Tom Brokaw. It's a very, very solid doc. The Other Man, F.W. de Klerk and the End of Apartheid. You know, we always talk just about Mandela, and de Klerk never really is spoken of, but he was the other half of that equation of bringing an end to apartheid. Really kind of a fascinating figure, often misunderstood, but really this also not going to be the final word on this, but it's a very brisk 75-minute documentary that gets entirely inside what motivated him, who he was, and kind of gives him the credit that he's due. Not more, not less. Probably just adequately gives him right amount of credit. Gorgeous documentary from Kino Lorber, The Great Museum by Johannes Holzhausen. This is, there are a lot of documentaries about museums. This is specifically about the Vienna Kunst, I'm going to mutilate this, Kunsthistorische Museum. Kunsthistorische Museum, which is one of the most famous museums in the world, has some of the greatest paintings ever, and it's just, in terms of its design and its layout, it's a gorgeous museum to begin with. So this deals specifically with the museum, the artwork, the people who work there, gives you a little bit of behind the curtain look at a great museum and what actually makes it tick. And I wish they'd kind of do this for more museums. I wish there was something on the Louvre for this, and something on the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and a few
There's
other.
a new museum in L.A. now, the
Broad.
Oh, you mean it's not a museum with like naked girls?
No, it's
not the Broad Museum.
It's Eli Broad, the billionaire, and he's doing the same thing that Armand Hammer did, right? Isn't he kind of putting a lot of his own artwork in it?
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, I guess.
LA is not quite a culture town, so that's a
No,
good thing. By the way, I want everybody to Google the Peterson Automotive Museum in Los Angeles, because they just relaunched it with a brand new, very controversial design.
Really?
That
They
you don't know about
relaunched
this?
it? No,
They remodeled the whole damn thing
I didn't know that.
with a very controversial design.
What does it look like? A bicycle?
No,
The car museum looks like a bicycle?
no, I'm not telling you.
Okay.
But it's crazy. It's a crazy design. Wacky.
I'll have to drive by there. Haven't driven by there in a while. 2-disc collector's edition on Blu-ray from Image is Crystal Lake Memory, is the complete history of Friday the 13th. This is strictly for people that love the Friday the 13th films, but if you do, everybody is interviewed here, and it's actually a very solid doc, regardless. I don't particularly like the films, so it's you throw it on in the background, occasionally pay attention when something else interesting comes on. But if you love the movies, you'll love the doc, and it's a nice Blu-ray. Soul Boys of the Western World, Spandau Ballet, the movie.
I used to. I like Spandau Ballet when I was a kid.
Well, it's interesting because what got me thinking about Spandau Ballet again is the fact that the Brian Helgeland film on the Cray brothers is coming out.
Right, Legend.
Right? Yes, Legend, which has Tom Hardy playing both of the Cray brothers.
Yeah.
Well, you remember there was already a film on the Crays, which starred the brothers from Spandau Ballet.
Right, that's right.
Right? That was back, 92, 93, something like that.
And that was a good film, too.
That was a really good film. Really good film. I suspect that it's probably a better film than what Helgeland will give us, because even though, great, give Tom Hardy, the dual role thing, but anytime you cast an actor in two parts and you do that whole little digital thing.
It's always what you're paying attention to.
It's always what you're paying attention to. You're sort of trying to figure out, how did he time that so that he's having a conversation with himself? And how are the people who are around him looking at him at the right time? Is there some guy on set with a digital stopwatch, cueing everybody? I start thinking about stuff like that. And that takes you right out of the movie.
It takes you out of the movie. That's not good.
So, yeah. Anyway. But Spandau Ballet, really talented bunch of guys. Part of that whole new romantic deal in the 80s. We grew up on that stuff, and it's nice to revisit that. So this is from Sundance Selects by way of MPI, and it's an interesting story. I loved Spandau Ballet. I didn't really know much about them other than, liking their music, so it's nice to get a little insight there. Nowitzki, The Perfect Shot is a Blu-ray from Magnolia. This made a little bit of an appearance around the world. It got released theatrically here only in Dallas. Did you know that? They only released this thing into theaters in Dallas. I don't know why they would do that. It's a weird thing to do, isn't it? A documentary about Dirk Nowitzki, and you release it only in Dallas? That's a joke. Because, you see, he plays for the Dallas Mavericks basketball team.
Oh, that's basketball.
That's basketball, yes.
It's not Mets related?
No, that guy.
Oh.
That guy, the white German guy.
Interesting.
Yeah, I've seen Nowitzki play. And, this is a good documentary. It's very kind of standard sports documentary. It's just, Mark Cuban is probably more interesting than Dirk Nowitzki in the doc. But what's interesting, I'll tell you the thing about Dirk Nowitzki. The guy is the most clutch person I've ever seen play basketball. I saw the Lakers play Dallas here in L.A., and I will never forget. It was a game where Kobe Bryant dropped, I think he dropped 60-some points in that game. One of his rare high 50, low 60-point games. But Kobe Bryant at the end of that game drained a three-pointer that was so clutch, 3 seconds left. You're like, oh, thank goodness, there we go, we're going to win. We're up by 2. Hey, yeah, we're down by 1. He drained 3 points, up by 2. Yeah, finally, Kobe kills it. Honestly, timeout. Dallas inbounds the ball. Nowitzki, 1 second left. Ball soaring through the air. Buzzer expires. Swish, 3-point game. Tie. It was actually we were up by 3. We were up by 3. That's what it was. And he drains it. He tied it. We went to overtime. It was unbelievable. It was like 3 seconds left or whatever, and he just nailed a 3-pointer. Unbelievable. Went to double.
Dallas win the game?
No, the Lakers won the game, but we went to double overtime. But it was amazing. It was watching two clutch players just do this amazing thing. So anyway, Dirk Nowitzki, I got a lot of respect for. I give the guy mad props. A Murder in the Park is one of those, documentaries that deals with just a horrible, horrible miscarriage of justice. A lot of those now with the Memphis documentaries and all that stuff. This is from 1983. Or the event depicted is actually 1983. The documentary is made last year about these guys in Chicago who were essentially this guy Anthony Porter was sentenced to death for killing a couple of teenagers, and then in 1998 there was a reopening of the case, and it turned out he didn't do it. So this gets into that whole ugly, horrible ordeal, and it's very disturbing when you consider just how loosey-goosey the justice system can be. And then lastly, well, I'll let you talk about that in just a second. Lastly, here we got a William Friedkin film that everyone's forgotten about called The People vs. Paul Crump. Which goes in that similar kind of miscarriage of justice vein. And this was a huge deal. This is essentially the film that started Friedkin's career before he became a big narrative filmmaker, French Connection, The Exorcist, and all that. He basically in 1962 made a movie about this extraordinary event that took place in 1953, where a bunch of black men robbed a meatpacking plant in Chicago in the stockyards. And everything went, completely kaput. A security guard wound up being killed, and one of the guys, like 4 of the guys that were involved, they all got regular sentences. The 5th guy confessed despite a really brutal interrogation, and then eventually retracted it, and wound up being sentenced to the electric chair. And this is about that whole episode, that whole ugly, horrible thing. It's an amazing doc. It was a big deal at the time. The People versus Paul Crump. It's you look at this and you're like, this guy who's directing this young director, he does some intense things I've never seen anybody do in a doc before. Friedkin's not known as a documentary filmmaker, but he kills it in this film. Does a really good job. Well,
you can tell that for whatever reason, the story was it just meant a lot to him.
It meant a lot to him.
He was really motivated by it. He was really touched by it. It really made him angry.
Yep.
And that sort of emotion comes through in the doc.
It does indeed. It does indeed.
Now, we can talk about some new stuff. There is this one Israeli film that I have to say that now you could talk about opera. I'm talking about the Jew stuff because
you do that.
I'm a Jew. I have to recommend The Farewell Party. This is co-directed by Sharon Maimon and Tal Granit. And this is just a gentle, bittersweet, slightly comic, well-observed movie about mercy killing. Putting it out there.
Okay, mercy killing.
It's
for California. It looks like we're going to get assisted suicide,
and that's fine.
And whenever you're ready, I will assist.
Believe me, at the rate I'm going, couldn't happen fast enough. Just make it painless. All I ask. Mm-hmm. Anyway, it takes place at this a retirement home in Jerusalem, and a group of friends decide to go there to help this terminally ill guy face the ultimate darkness.
Yeah.
Even though it seems like very depressing subject matter, it's funny and it's compassionate and it's just really terrific. I was very surprised how it took a subject that is obviously very depressing and made it funny, but it was very humanist. It's not trying to make you laugh like a comedy. It's a celebration of life,
which is wonderful, and it's very Jewish, to celebrate life even in the dark moments, and it is. And I actually credit the Sea Inside, the Alejandro Amenabar film, which we haven't heard from him in a while, have we? But I credit that movie with kind of changing this debate quite a bit.
That's true. I remember seeing Whose Life Is It Anyway, and I love that movie. And I don't know if that movie holds up or not, but I remember seeing Whose Life Is It Anyway, and I thought that was just so interesting. Because back then, there was no Kevorkian back then.
No.
And it wasn't really – that movie helped put that subject matter onto the front burner news-wise back then.
It did.
And now, of course, people pretty much agree that Wade should be able to kill himself whenever he wants.
Sure, absolutely.
I'm very much for Wade killing himself.
I could do that one day. I could do that one day.
Exactly.
All right, let's get into some new movies.
Don't we have any mail, Vox Box?
Sure, all the above. Sure, we could do that.
Really, for today's show?
Yeah.
Wow, it's exciting.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that now we have people who are coming. They're not coming to us via IGN, stumbling into us via IGN. They're coming specifically because they like the DigiGods, and those people should be rewarded.
Let me take a moment at this point in time then and just say that, yes, you can email us or you can send us audio questions, which is part of our VoxBox segment. No, Mark, you don't get to do that. I'm going to have to record something more professional so we don't have you doing that.
More professional? Yes, that's what the show needs, more professional.
So you can email us at gods@digigods.com. The new cinegods.com website is shaping up, so it'll be there hopefully before too long. And yes, we take all emails, we take all audio questions for the VoxBox segment, and also want to invite you to visit digigods.com right now. The temporary blog space that we have over at Libsyn, it goes to digigods.com is what will take you there, and use the links. All the titles discussed on the show will be there in a rundown and a complete list, and they will you can find everything that we've talked about, and they will be direct linked over to Amazon for your convenience if you want to find any of them. So we're trying to get more slick and accommodating. That's what we're trying to do. So yes, want me to read some listener mail?
Yes, come on.
Got some new movies.
We're going to do the new movies.
Okay. All right.
We have a movie about male strippers. Wade's favorite film of the year, male strippers. We have a remake that sucked.
Yeah, there you go. All right. From Lauren Meehan. in Muskota, Wisconsin. Wow, we go far and wide, don't we?
I love it. It's great.
That's cool. So Lauren asks, he says, I've often heard Mark say that Star Trek The Motion Picture is Wade's favorite movie of all time. Of course, we all know how flawed and awesome that movie is, and I just wanted to hear your opinions on it. So, yes, my opinion on Star Trek The Motion Picture. Here's as much mockery as I often take.
By the way, this could take hours.
Yeah, no, it'll be very short. Look, I wouldn't say that it's one of the greatest films ever made, but it's a film I'm very fond of. I was a very impressionable Star Trek fanatic at the time, watching. We all waited endlessly for that movie. And a lot of
we waited. Once it started, we waited endlessly.
Well, here's the
finish.
thing. I am not a space battle, blow 'em up, phaser fight kind of guy. That's not my deal. I like thoughtful science fiction. I'm a 2001 guy. I'm a Solaris guy. And I like the fact that it sort of dwelled in that, what will become of us evolutionarily. It was very existential in its thinking. It was very philosophical, and that's very Gene Roddenberry, and I love that stuff, and I'm glad that it went there. Nobody else seemed to like that it went there, but it was meaningful to me in that regard. And it was Robert Wise. Come on, give it up.
Well,
Robert Wise, 14 years after he made Sound of Music, he made a Star Trek movie. How cool is that?
Well, he also made an Andromeda Strain. He definitely has some genres. He has some genre stuff in it.
Yeah, the Day the Earth Stood Still.
It was it was Star Trek: The Motionless Picture. The only thing notable about that movie was the music. The Oscar-nominated score by late great Jerry Goldsmith. But yes, I don't understand.
Some weeks ago, we also made fun of Castle, the TV series Castle. And Chevelle Dixon, longtime listener, said, I have a confession to make. I'm one of those people who watch Castle. The reason I watch and why I think it has lasted this long is because of the chemistry of the cast, especially with Nathan Fillion and Stana Katic, and is fun pretty much every week. It's a fun and light hour of TV that you can have playing in the background, much like Law & Order. And it's the same vein as Bones, which has a similar dynamic as Castle and has been going for 10 years. It can be ridiculous at times, but I thoroughly enjoy it, and this is my first step in admitting I'm a Castle-holic.
Well, Bones and Castle, those are two shows where you get the feeling that if those two main characters did anything, they were bakers, they were bankers.
Yes.
People just want to see those characters.
Those characters. And the reason that I find this funny now is because Castle was one of the funniest jokes in the Emmy opening, in that whole little Emmy short film opening that Andy Samberg did.
Did not see it.
You didn't see it.
I didn't watch any of the Emmys.
You've got to watch the opening at least. Seriously, it's brilliant. It's genius. It's some of the best stuff Andy Samberg's ever done.
Okay, what does he say?
Well, it's one of those SNL type digital shorts that he used to do, where he's sitting at dinner. I'll give you a thumbnail of it. He's sitting at dinner with people, and everybody's talking about all the great television. Have you seen it? No. I DVR'd it. Oh, and everyone's mocking him because he hasn't seen any of this television. And television is just prolific. It's profligate now, right? There's so much television. And so he locks himself in a bomb shelter and comes out like a year and a half later, with beard, and he's completely deranged. And he's thrilled because now he's seen every episode of every single show. And he goes and launches into this big musical number. I've seen every show. And eventually he, bumps into what's-his-face from Castle, who says, have you seen Castle? Long pause, backs up, goes back in the bomb shelter for another 115 hours to watch every episode of Castle. Very funny. The one show he hadn't seen was Castle. That's the joke.
You realize that Emmy broadcast was the lowest rated Emmy broadcast of all time.
Because no one cares about TV anymore. They don't. They want to watch it.
Also,
but
Andy Samberg is not the guy who, oh my God, I can't, but what's he going to do?
It's not even.
At least Seth MacFarlane was like, wow, what's he going to do as Oscar host?
It wasn't even about Andy Samberg. I think what it's about is that there's so much television now that people don't really care about the competition. They don't care about the competitive nature of it. It just, there are too many awards and too many shows. So it's just too fragmented, and the Oscars could learn from that. You gotta sort of make it interesting. Gotta make the horse race interesting. Let's see, what other fun tidbits do we have in mail? Let's read this one here. This comes to us from Dwayne Arnold. And Dwayne writes, FYI, we made fun of, we didn't make fun of Shriners. I made a joke about Facebook some weeks ago, right? Facebook, and, we didn't even think about Shriners.
Not funny, sure.
Didn't think anybody around elsewhere would know what Shriners were unless you're in LA or New York, because it's a whole, kind of show-busy, Jewish-y thing. A friend of mine, his granddad was a Shriner, and he was a Shriner along with Gavin MacLeod from The Love Boat, who's not Jewish, but who was a Shriner.
He's also not gay. I always thought Gavin MacLeod was gay. Turns out he's married to a woman.
Yeah. He's also quite religious, I believe.
Is he?
I think so, yeah. And he's a Shriner. Anyway, FYI, says Dwayne, there are Shriners in the Midwest. I've lived throughout Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota all my life, and I'm very aware of them, mostly through their circus. They use this to raise money for their charities. Thought you might find this interesting. Isn't that
Did not
weird?
know that.
They have a circus.
Thank you very much for that.
Circus. I wonder if the horses and the
Are gay?
and
Or
the
Jewish?
elephants wear fezzes. Can you imagine an elephant with a fez? That'd be great. I'd love that. All right, and we got a couple others here, but we're gonna hold on to them until another show. Actually, we'll hold off on those for another show.
But you did promise a Vox box later on.
Yes, we're gonna have a Vox box near the end of the show.
Okay.
Absolutely. So let's talk to us about male strippers, Mark.
Well, my favorite subject, male strippers. We have Magic Mike XXL.
Not directed by Soderbergh.
This is not directed by Steven Soderbergh. However, it was directed by his longtime buddy Gregory Jacobs. And Soderbergh, although, as he is wont to do anyway, he pseudonymously was the cinematographer and the editor. And obviously, this movie is not as fresh as the original, which was just a whole lot of fun, I have to say. This one, still, I found it funny. You know, there's that. What I liked about it is that all these guys in this movie, and there's no Matthew McConaughey in this, they're all at that time in their life where they're like, look, we understand that we don't have much time left in our like hunky maleness that women would want to see us as male strippers. So we understand the passage of time. We acknowledge it a little bit in a couple funny bits. But let's just have a great time and just make the money and make the girls happy and flaunt our bodies for as long as we can. And I kind of like that take on it. Yeah. The guy who wrote this, Reed Carlton, was the same guy who wrote the previous one. And look, I thought it was funny, not as funny as the original, but a good continuation, good cast. Joe Mangia, whatever his name is, who's marrying Sofia Vergara, he's in this. And obviously Channing Tatum's in this, and Amber Heard is in this. Amber Heard, of course, married to Johnny Depp. And Annie McDowell's in this too, who's still just as beautiful. So I think this thing goes down easy. It's enjoyable, fun to watch. Not as good as the original, but still a good Saturday night rental.
So, as somebody who has not yet seen this, if I enjoyed the first one, didn't go nuts for it, but thought, well, that's a nice piece of sort of fluff from Steven Soderbergh, who probably thought one day, I'm kind of bored, not doing anything. Hey, how about, Channing, why don't you do some strippery things and call up Matthew and have him, kind of do a riff on him. Yeah, that was fun. I enjoyed it, but, it's light, it's fluffy, it's not real deep. If I sort of had that reaction to the first film, what will I think of this one?
You won't like this one as much.
Will I like it at all?
Well, first of all, Soderbergh is, as a director, he has few peers.
True.
So it's not like you're going to get, Jacobs is going to knock it out of the park.
Yeah.
So on that basis, I would say, by dint of not being directed by Soderbergh, you won't like it as much.
Yeah, all right. So we got a movie with Tom Sizemore in it, and that means that
quality.
He needs the paycheck.
Total quality.
It's not. I like Tom Sizemore. The guy's made so many cool movies, but man, ever since the glory days of Saving Private Ryan, all he does now are just like straight to video movies where he's holding a gun in the artwork, and that's it. He just needs the paycheck. I'd like to see him do something decent again, but he's going to have to straighten out all those arrest issues and all that stuff that's been kind of tainting his hireability. Anyway, this is basically a SWAT movie. It's called SWAT Unit 887. I don't know what's special about 887. It's just a number somebody made up.
1 Adam 12. Was there anything special?
Sure.
1 Adam 12.
Whatever. Anyway, basically, there's a terrorist who's going to blow up L.A. and they've got 24 hours to stop him. There's nothing particularly remarkable about this. There's nothing horrible about it. It's just it's passable. But what's funny is you look at this and you go, oh, Tom Sizemore, and then while you're watching the movie, you realize this movie's just filled with people who sort of faded off the radar. You go, oh my gosh, is that Michael Pare? That's Michael Pare. What happened? He's still alive?
How does he look?
He looks great. Looks fantastic. Looks the same, actually. It's amazing. He's aged really, just like Tom Sizemore. They look the same as they did in the 80s. You're like, they look really good. And then you go, Misha Barton. Didn't she have a DUI and just totally fall off the radar?
She fell off the radar.
Yeah. So anyway, they're all in this.
I think she lives like in France. Does she live in France or something?
Well, she's British. She's British. Yeah. Nobody knows that because she never used it on television on the OC or whatever it was she was on. But
there was a moment when I thought she was kind of hot.
But she's British, and you know how you know she's British is because in Notting Hill, when Hugh Grant tries to crash Julia Roberts' press junket and winds up interviewing the child star from the same movie, and it's a whole kind of awkward moment where he doesn't know how to even interview her, that child star is Misha Barton.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
That is unbelievable.
Right?
Blah.
And then we've got Escobar, Paradise Lost, starring Benicio del Toro and Josh Hutcherson. Josh Hutcherson really is not my favorite actor. I think
that guy's lame. You know
thank
what?
God for the Hunger Games.
No, he's the weak link in the Hunger Games.
I know, but without that, he would
like
not even be.
I know. You wouldn't care about him at all.
No, he wouldn't be on anybody's list.
I don't know why they saw like Jennifer Lawrence, who's just commanding and Oscar winning, and she's just the best, and the other guy, what's his name? I forgot his name.
Yeah.
He's good. And then they like Josh Hutcherson, so bland.
The only thing that makes you take him much more seriously in the Hunger Games is the fact that she calls him Petey. That has real gravitas.
The best.
Yeah. When she every time she says Petey, I imagine, oh yeah, now I'm taking him seriously. Are you kidding me? Petey? Like it's not bad. It's bad enough. Forget it. Anyway.
We've seen Jennifer Lawrence in person.
Yeah. So, well, anyway, so this is a whole thing that takes place in Colombia, and it's with Benicio del Toro playing Pablo Escobar, the famous drug kingpin, and Josh Hutcherson as this American surfer who gets drawn into this whole world because of a woman. It's this could have been a really interesting film. In fact, if they had just done a straight like Escobar biopic with Benicio del Toro, that might have made more sense. But the whole kind of weird caper kind of romance thing that this turns into does not really pan out. I am sorry to say. Promising, but doesn't quite pay off. Del Toro always interesting, even when the film isn't that interesting. But I don't know if it's kind of a rental.
There's a movie called Cop Car, and this movie is notable for one reason. Because it was directed by the guy who's going to be directing the new Spider-Man film.
Oh, seriously?
Yes, John Watts, who directed Cop Car, is directing the standalone Spider-Man film.
How did that happen?
For Sony. You know what? For Marvel, this is the Marvel. This is like, this is, how Spider-Man's being shared now by Marvel.
Yeah.
Sony.
But based on Cop Car?
Yes,
really?
based on Cop Car.
Seriously?
And by the way, Marvel met with this guy. This is not Sony meeting with this guy and vetting him. This is Marvel. This is Kevin meeting with John Watts and saying, I think you're the guy. I watched Cop Car. I think Cop Car is a type of movie where there's not much here. You almost feel like it's just an excuse for the director to show off his stylistic impulses and his stylistic taste.
All right.
Because otherwise, there's really not a lot here. It stars. The movie is about these two kids, and they're just drifting around, and they find this empty cop car, and they just decide to steal this cop car. And even though they're really young, they're just these, joyriding preteens, and they're going to steal the car. They're 10 years old, steal the car. Turns out that the car is obviously a cop car. Kevin Bacon is the sheriff who usually drives the cop car, and so the kids wind up on the run from Kevin Bacon as the sheriff whose car it is. And of course, Kevin Bacon, the sheriff, he's entangled in these weird little things with this guy, this murderous guy. So Kevin Bacon's looking for the murderous guy. The murderous guy is looking for Kevin Bacon. And the kids wind up getting caught up in that. And there's really not much here. But I watched the film saying, okay, John Watts can put together a movie, but I don't know that I want to see him direct Spider-Man.
Okay.
I don't really see, but again, I trust Marvel, and if maybe his take on Spider-Man was something that they responded to. But
this whole unknown indie director doing giant tentpole things is really hit and miss so far. You know what I mean? It really is.
I mean, it worked great with James Gunn.
Yeah, it worked with Jurassic World, even though it's not a good movie, and it just crashed and burned with Fantastic Four. So it's just
that movie was so bad.
Man.
Anyway, so Cop Car, you know what? It's a short film. It's a taut little 90 minutes. It's definitely holds your interest. You want to know what's going to happen. There's some good sequences in it. In the end, I wish it added up to a little bit more. But there's Cop Car.
A couple of really interesting movies here. Closer to the Moon didn't get a lot of traction, and this was picked up by Sundance. It's out on from Sundance Select through MPI. Vera Farmiga and Mark Strong star. Great performances from both of them. I love both of these actors, and it's just an unusual movie. It's an unusual story and a tough thing to market, but it's worth checking out. Directed by I'm going to mutilate this director's name. Written and directed by Nay Caranfil. I'm sure it's close enough. Anyway, somebody you really should keep an eye on. Really very, very talented filmmaker. The idea here, it's all based on things that happened in Romania in 1959, where some Jewish Communist Party members, for some weird reason, decided to hold up a bank. And they were caught and sentenced to death. And before they were sentenced to death, they were asked for the sake of a propaganda film, to recreate the heist. It's a weird story. It's a whole weird story. But
it sounds like an act of killing. The documentary.
A little bit of that. Not quite. I mean, that film, that's chilling because those are the real people, and they're sort of revisiting their own crimes. This is all sort of dramatized. But great actress. Vera Farmiga just continues to be one of the most interesting and daring actresses around. So a really interesting film. I wish it were on Blu-ray. It's only on DVD. And Heaven Knows What, not that fond of. This is on Blu-ray from Anchor Bay, originally released by Radius, the kind of low-budget, not genre, but it's their low-budget, ultra-arty arm of the Weinstein Company. The two guys that ran Radius are now opening a new shingle somewhere. They're not running Radius anymore. But anyway, Heaven Knows What, based on a memoir by Ariel Holmes, who stars in it. It's another one of these heroin addiction movies. This is directed by Josh and Benny Safdie. It's just, they all these things kind of feel the same to me at this point. Trainspotting sort of lit the fuse, and then we wound up with The Basketball Diaries and Requiem for a Dream, and I'm sort of done with movies that just show me how miserable and decadent and sort of self-destructively glorious heroin addiction on the streets is. I'm done. I mean, it may be well done, but I've been down that road too many times.
You mean you're a heroin addict?
I don't need another needle in my arm, man.
Exactly.
All right.
Wade.
Yeah.
Poltergeist.
Ugh.
Now, the original Poltergeist, which was produced by Steven Spielberg, but not directed by Steven Spielberg, that movie does not hold up. I'm sorry. That movie's lame.
Really?
At the
original?
time, no, it doesn't hold up.
Are you serious?
Doesn't hold up. It's lame.
It's so much fun.
It's like a light comedy now. It's not. It
was a light comedy at the time.
Yeah, but you were still a little terrified.
No,
it was
not really.
Oh, stop that.
No.
You're just trying to be a tough guy. It's Toby Hooper. You knew that the screws were turning a little bit on Poltergeist. That's part of its charm, right? Now it's just like this silly thing.
Let me tell you what I remember from when I saw Poltergeist. I saw Poltergeist at the Plitt Theaters over here.
Century City.
The Plitt Theaters are not there anymore.
Now it's the CAA building.
Well, they turned the Plitt Theaters they renovated them and cut up the big screen and turned it into a Cineplex, and then they literally demolished that entire complex and they put the freaking CAA Death Star building on top of it. So it's horrible. It's ugly and it's humiliating. But the Plitt Theaters had those great red velour seats that were really bouncy.
Sure.
Do you remember that?
Yes.
Like all these seats now with their little electronic reclining and whatnot. No. The real deal were the ones.
What seats have electronic reclining in theaters?
You haven't been into like a real theater in a while, have you? When you go to like Cineplexes, go to a Cineplex now. Like in Santa Monica, the Broadway Cineplex deals, they have little buttons. You're like,
they do not.
They do.
Really?
Yeah, you little recline.
Wait a
put
second.
Your feet up.
I see movies in real theaters. I'm seeing The Walk.
Okay.
This week. That's in Century City.
Yes.
Does Century City have
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm seeing Jobs at the ArcLight.
Yeah, I
Did
think
the ArcLight rip up all their seats and put electronic?
No. These are like anything that's been renovated in the past 6 or 7 years. They have that's a whole new
Really?
thing. Yeah. Well, anyway, so the Plitz. This is what I remember from Poltergeist. Before we get onto the little stream of consciousness
go to
train.
A real movie now. You and I never see trailers. We never see ads and films. We go to a screening. We've been doing this for 20 years now.
Yeah.
They go to a screening. The lights go down. Movie starts. That's it.
Yeah, it's true. It is what it is.
I like it.
Yeah, I kind of do too. So anyway, I remember seeing it with a bunch of friends, and whatever that was, same year as E.T., so 82.
E.T.
And I remember those bouncy seats, and my friend Blake, who's
Blake Carrington?
No,
Dynasty?
Little guy, Blake Ferris. He's a little guy. He was a little guy and real energetic. And he was enjoying the bouncy seat, right? He was enjoying the bouncy seat. And halfway through the movie, Blake's a guy. He weighed probably 110, 120 pounds at the time, and he bounced so far back that he catapulted himself into the row in front of us. Literally, he kind of went. Shoo, right over the seat and into the seat in front of us. And we just started laughing, and somebody complained, and all I remember was that just took me right out of the movie. So that's my memory of Poltergeist. I think that happened at some point when the little girl was getting pulled into the TV.
Well, then you should not see Poltergeist.
Anyway.
The remake with Sam Rockwell, this thing is really
I like Sam
unnecessary.
Rockwell.
Oh, come on.
How does he compare to Craig T. Nelson?
Who doesn't love him? Well, see, Craig T. Nelson to me was more of like a suburban dad.
He was the dad, yeah.
But Rockwell is still too much that indie. He's got that little smirk. Even if he doesn't have a smirk, he's got a smirk. So this thing, you know what? Look, there are some nice homages, nice little nods to the original, which is great. Some of them are pretty clever. But as a standalone story, I just think this thing is just not that scary. It's not that funny. It's just there's nothing that surprising in it. It's totally needless. I don't really know what the point was. You know, it's like people who grew up on the original are not going to see this one.
I hear you.
You know, and Gil Keenan, that guy just cannot put together a movie. I'm just not really not a fan of Poltergeist.
All right. Well, let me finish off our new movie thing here. We'll do a little bit of television and then probably a couple of classics. We got some interesting classic movie things that have happened in the last couple of weeks that we should make mention of, and then we will lock this show up until next week. A movie called Unexpected, kind of an okay little indie. This is from the Film Arcade and Alchemy. This is all right. This is, maternity-themed movies aren't everybody's cup of tea. But if you've got kids, or if you know people who do have kids, you know anybody who's been through pregnancy, you will, you'll understand, kind of where this movie's going. And it's nice, in particular, to see a movie with Elizabeth McGovern in it that's different from Downton Abbey, because that's all she's done for the last 6 years, and she kind of didn't do much before that either. This also has the guy in it who plays. Who's recently in The Intern, who plays...
Robert De Niro.
No, not Robert De Niro. No, Anne Hathaway's husband in that movie. He's in this. What is it? Kobe Smulders, is that his name?
Kobe Bryant?
Kobe Smulders.
Kobe
Good
Bryant?
actor.
Oh, Kobe Smulders. She's cute. I like her.
No, is that a woman?
Somebody. That's a woman.
Is that Kobe Smulders? Who's this guy? I don't know.
Don't stop recording.
No, I'm not.
Kobe Smulders is in the Avengers movies.
Oh, that's who Kobe Smulders is. Okay. Well, anyway. So, Anders Holm? Maybe is that the guy?
I have no idea.
Well, anyway, he's a good actor.
Why would I go see The Intern?
I don't know. It was an afterthought.
The only reason why I would go see The Intern...
I really liked The Intern.
Did you really?
I did.
Why?
I really did. Well, first let me just mention this on Unexpected. This is basically, I guess Kobe Smulders is one of the two women in this. So anyway, it's one of the two women who basically, both dealing with pregnancy. It's a friendship between two pregnant women. That's basically what it is. No, The Intern. I'll tell you, a good movie. Unexpected. Check it out.
But it's Nancy Myers. It's just like...
You know what? Here's the thing. I talked about... I was with Andy on radio last week. And
he didn't like it. There's no way.
No, he not really. But here's the reason I'm forgiving of Nancy Myers. Because as she's gotten older, she's kind of turned into this like protest senior citizen feminist, where she's making movies that basically say, hey, I'm an older woman, take me seriously, stop disrespecting, my gender, my age, all of this. And as obnoxious as that sounds, she makes movies that sort of have this cool throwback, old 40s screwball comedy, dramedy vibe to them. Like, these are movies we got a fair amount of in the 80s, and they were all Touchstone. You remember? There was like that Touchstone thing.
I know, but they're all very disposable. I mean, how many of those are really that memorable?
Well, they're not that memorable.
Like Ruthless People and those sorts of movies?
That's a little more broad, but her last film, It's Complicated, right? With Steve Martin and
Diane Keaton? No, the other one.
No. What? Diane Keaton?
No, who's in It's Complicated? I forgot.
It's Complicated is Meryl Streep.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Meryl Streep. You threw me for a second. It was Meryl Streep and Steve Martin and Alec Baldwin, right? Yeah, and I saw that with my mother-in-law, who laughed herself almost into delirium watching it, and I just thought, this is your movie. This is a movie for people of a certain age, and bravo to Nancy Myers for making it. I thought there's a lot of wonderful stuff. Anne Hathaway is really, really good. I mean, really good in it. And the whole thing about, everybody has something to offer, even if you're older. And, Robert De Niro has a great bit where the interns are hounding other guys, all these millennials with scraggly faces are kind of hounding him. And they're like, so you shave every day? Like even Sundays? I mean, there's great fun little generational comedy like that.
Let me get this straight.
Yeah.
In the movie,
yes,
do those young whippersnappers teach Robert De Niro something about being youthful and staying young? And does Robert De Niro teach those young whippersnappers something about life?
More the latter, actually. He doesn't really learn a great deal from them, but it's the whole Anne Hathaway story that's really great, which is that she's a successful .com CEO, a company that she's built, and they want her to hire somebody else to run the company as it grows. And does she step aside, or does she assert herself and say, no, it's my company, and kind of hold her ground? And it's there's some wise and whimsical stuff in there, and it has this great score by someone I've never heard of, which is kind of like this plucky little Dave Grusin type score. And I now realize all those Dave Grusin scores I made fun of in the 80s, I kind of miss them now. Yeah. I sort of do. They were mostly for Sidney Pollack movies.
And Taking It Pelham 1-2-3. I love that score. That was Dave Grusin.
Was that Dave Grusin?
The original Taking It Pelham 1-2-3.
How old is Dave Grusin now?
28, 29.
Yeah, something like that. Okay, I hear you. All right, The Duke of Burgundy. Oh, my gosh. Really, no point in seeing this. A very stylish film, but written and directed by Peter Strickland, who certainly has some chops, but otherwise, really, this is just about a couple of women who are doing a lot of kind of weird S&M play, role-playing stuff. And yeah, it does that thing that these movies always do, which is things get out of hand and the relationship isn't kind of you're not able to contain it, and oh dear, the S&M does have its price. Honestly, we don't need more of these movies. I'm so tired of them. They always do the same things, and yeah, it's stylish, and I'm sure Strickland will get a lot of work out of it, but it's not, unless that's your thing, unless you just love watching all of these S&M doomed relationship movies. It's nothing new there. And then a weird little film that's on a Best Buy exclusive. This is a Blu-ray of Return to Sender, which is a great cast. Rosamund Pike and Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte, who now apparently only plays crazy old curmudgeons. That's all he's qualified to do now. But
in real life, he's nuts.
I know he is. And which I guess it's true to life, maybe. I don't know. I was hoping Rosamund Pike would start to do more interesting work, but and we got another one, by the way, that we're going to talk about next week with Rosamund Pike in it. But I just thought that her Oscar nomination would set her up to do better stuff, and this is an unusual thing, and I don't know. It's not a bad film. It's just I expect this cast to do a better film. I expect a better film from this cast. If this were a lesser cast, I'd probably be fine with this. Anyway, it's essentially a thriller about a woman who is assaulted and then so traumatized by the assault that it completely changes the way that she structures the rest of her life, and then so she goes to revisit the guy who assaulted her, and I won't tell you where it goes from there, but the relationship that transpires in confronting him is interesting, but should be better. It goes into kind of Fatal Attraction territory, which you're like, stop it, don't do that. Other movies have done that. That's too obvious. So anyway. Television, Mark.
Television, Wade. Here's the big one for the week. Should we start with the big one?
Start with the big one.
Lost in Space, the entire goddamn thing.
Yes!
83.
Yes!
83 episodes on Blu-ray. This is the last word on Lost in Space on home video, yes.
You know how I feel about this?
What?
Oh, the pain.
You're not feeling pain. You're feeling wonderment. This show, I like this show. I didn't like it on the order that I like Star Trek. But I did like this show. It was a little cheesy. It was not as intellectual as Star Trek or Space 1999. This was a little more of a kid show. It wasn't aimed at kids, but it was a little more of a kid show.
It was Irwin Allen's show, and all those Irwin Allen shows at the time, apart from Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, were cheesy. I mean, Land of the Giants was cheeseball. Time Tunnel was just unbelievably cheesy. Lost in Space was maybe the most successful of any of them.
Absolutely, yeah. But it only lasted for 3 seasons.
Yeah,
by the way, you never even knew what happened to the damn crew. The show just got canceled.
Well, it's the Swiss Family Robinson in space,
yes,
but I mean, I like the cast, but I like them more for the other things that they did. It just
really I like another
like,
episode where they're about to make it home, and then Zachary, what's his name?
He
goes, I sabotaged you.
I mean, there's an episode where there are vegetable people on a planet, like a guy in a carrot suit. It's like, really?
And you know what? And the kids wouldn't eat the vegetable people because they don't like their vegetables. Anyway, we have this thing is just a beautiful box set. Really one of the best we've seen so far this year, up until the holiday shows when we'll have even more ornate and jam-packed box sets. But for now, this is one of the best of the year in terms of box sets. This is it's got 2 full-length documentaries. It's got a 1973 animated special. It's got it's just new interviews. It's just great. By the way, if you're interested and you're like, Lost in Space, I wouldn't watch that for 1 minute. Well, you should watch it for 1 minute because the theme song for Lost in Space was written by John Williams.
No, it was not.
It was written by Johnny Williams.
That's right.
So 50 years ago, Johnny Williams writes the theme to Lost in Space, and it's one of the most memorable themes of that era. We can all hum it. And so if you want to see where there are 2
themes to Lost in Space. You realize the first season is different.
Well, there was one.
They changed it in the second season.
Well, there was one that wasn't there one that was like repurposed Bernard Herrmann music?
Yeah, it was something like that.
It was repurposed Bernard Herrmann music. And the other one was Johnny Williams, who would go on, obviously, to do Star Wars and become the greatest film composer of all time. But, so I would at least, if you don't care about Lost in Space, at least go to YouTube and listen to this theme song because it's Johnny Williams at his best.
Yeah.
Johnny. Anyway, it's just a wonderful box set.
That's Lost in Space on Blu-ray, man. That is a mega giant thing. That is huge. Wow.
It's really, really well done. One of the best non-holiday gift box.
That robot, that stinking robot. Now,
by the way, we have a friend who was mentioned earlier in the show who shares a name with one of the main characters.
That's right. Yes, indeed.
Now, did he take crap for that?
All the time. Okay. All the time, and he owned it too, which was great.
Really?
Yes. Danger, danger, Will Robinson.
But he would never call himself Will. We call him William.
Yeah. But believe me, in high school, in elementary school, it was always danger, danger. That went on a lot.
Now
that went on a lot.
Because we call him William. Do we call him William because calling him Will Robinson would be just too much?
No, nobody ever. No.
It was just always
it's always been William. Yeah.
All right, wait. Let's come in for landing on this crazy show. All right. Bones, 10 seasons. This thing just keeps going and going and going and going and going. This thing, there's new episodes on Fox coming up a couple weeks. And again, we talked about this about Castle, mentioned about Bones. Doesn't matter what these people do. People just want to spend time with David Boreanaz and Deschanel, whatever her name is, I forgot already. Emily Deschanel. And now this season has Cyndi Lauper in it. That was kind of cool. And I did like seeing Ryan O'Neal.
Sure.
Looking older, but he's had a lot of work done. But there you go, Bones season 10. No reason why you shouldn't go for that. Yes, Wade? What do you think?
I want to.
Fresh Off the Boat is a kind of a controversial show that wound up being kind of a bit of a hit. This is the story of a family of immigrants, and they're living in America. It takes place in the 90s, and it seemed as if it was going to be totally cliche, but I think this really was. It resonated with a lot of people who were not born here, and they're trying to assimilate into the United States, and it's got kind of that fun modern family vibe to it. It's like it's funny, maybe a little bit silly, a little bit out there, part of the humor there. So I think that I had no hope for this. This thing looked like it was going to be the lamest show of that season, and it turns out to be pretty good. Lots of culture clash jokes and whatnot.
Swankerific.
Fresh Off the Boat on ABC.
Yeah. And then we got an interesting little German series here. Now, this is interesting to me because most of these European shows are megahertz, or not megahertz. I should correct myself. They don't like us calling them that. MHZ Networks. MHZ Networks has been just completely raiding all the great European non-English language television and bringing it over. And obviously somebody got wind of that and went and said, you know what, maybe we can make a buck or two off of one of those here. And Sundance TV brought one of those series over, which is now out from Kino Lorber, and that show is called Deutschland 83. With the tagline "Over the Wall, Under the Gun," which tells you everything that this is. Actually, it's a really, really sharp show. Incredibly well done. Very high production value, which is not necessarily typical of German television. A lot of German television is really, really lowbrow and junky. Which is why people like Wolfgang Petersen try so desperately to graduate from German television into, miniseries, which they turn into movies, which they then use to jump over to the United States and never, ever go back and have to suffer through low-paying German television work again. But this is really top-notch. It is essentially a Cold War drama. and obviously, as the 1983 backdrop would tell you, and it is really fascinating. The whole East German dynamic, the whole how we're going to deal with the tension between East and West, all of it centering on this young 23-year-old East German played by Jonas Ney. It's very very interesting, very politically astute, and for people who don't remember the Cold War, I would say quite an education. So interesting extras too, which includes a Q&A with the Goethe Institute. Pretty cool.
They're in my building.
Oh, that's right. They are, aren't they?
Yeah, in the building where I work, the Goethe Institute.
They do. They host a lot of cool German cinema stuff in LA. They do.
You'll see them. They'll list at the front door the
all
latest
the stuff that they're
series
doing.
of programs that they'll have. And it's interesting stuff. And then I make fun of them because they're German and I'm Jewish. I hate them all.
Homeland. Go on. Carry on.
Okay. Homeland Season 4. When Homeland Season 1 came out, it was like a phenomenon. Everyone loved it. It was the return of Claire Danes. I love Claire Danes. Now that we're 4 seasons in, it's not becoming old or stale, but, obviously that freshness has worn off. And now, of course, Claire Danes, she's now the station chief, and she's stationed in Afghanistan. And so it's just as intense, but it's becoming a little more formulaic. So I like this season a little less than some of the other seasons, but, Showtime is staying with it, and it's got a lot of intense stuff. It's got a really good cast. Mandy Patinkin's in it, and the Blu-ray has a bunch of special features, including some character profiles. And so if you like Homeland, you'll like this. To me, it's better than season 3, but not as good as season 1 or 2.
All right, Mark, it is time for VoxBox.
Oh, can I do the thing?
Do the thing.
Hi, Mark and Wade. This is Kevin Lower, longtime fan. I wanted to follow up on the VoxBox from Eric Altieri from episode 388. He had started his question talking about the home movie market and how it's going digital. And I want to know, how do you feel about the speed that we're coming to this digital future? One of the things I'm worried about is that the internet is really holding us back. Eric was comparing movies to music, but I'd say another good comparison is to video games, because they suffer from the same limitations since making the transfer to high definition, and that's the file sizes. I mean, whether it's streaming or downloading, not everyone has fast internet, and without it, it's hard to do either of those things. The other problem, too, with the internet is data caps. I know not everyone has data caps anymore. Most people are moving towards unlimited, but I live in Canada, and the plan that I have is a moderate one. But I get 100 gigs a month, and most of it is used for Netflix. So when I'm using Ultraviolet and things and downloading movies, it just eats everything up. I'm on the Netflix website right now, and it says here for high-quality video, they use 3 gigs an hour for HD and 7 gigs an hour for Ultra HD. So, 100 gigs isn't really going to cut it, and you have to start spending more on bigger plans. So, I would say we're moving pretty good towards this digital future that we've got here for movies, but until the internet infrastructure here in Canada, US sort of catches up, I think there's only so far we can really go. I want to know your opinion on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kevin. Really good question. He's VoxBoxing based on another VoxBox.
I love that.
That's a first.
We said that at the same time, James.
We did. Oh, hold my hand. Hold my hand.
I'll pass.
Okay.
Well, what do we think about the merits of his statement?
I think it's a really important subject. Not just where the internet is concerned, but it's funny. I was talking to our dear friend Sean, who is my DP from film school, and who you know very, very well. You've produced a feature film that Sean actually shot.
Yeah, quote unquote feature film.
But Sean is like the genius of all things tech. Whether he's run a post production house, and he knows all things pertaining to sound and all of this stuff. And we were talking about the how completely frenetic the HDMI 2.0 spec is right now. There's sort of no one really knows what the spec is, what the color space is. Everybody's focusing focusing on more pixels on TV as opposed to better pixels. And he goes, now you'll have, like ultra high def, but the pixels are still 8-bit video when it would be nice to have at least 16 or 32-bit video. You know what I mean? It's like this gets into a technical area that's far beyond your average layperson. All they know is UHD, more resolution. And everyone kind of misses the fact that we're sacrificing a lot in all of these technologies in order to get them out there and to exploit bandwidth and be affordable. And that pertains to, Netflix and the internet and everything else, is that everybody wants stuff now and they want it quickly, and then they realize after the fact that they're not quite getting the quality they had hoped for. And that wanting something fast and wanting fast internet and wanting a lot of data and everything, there's a trade-off. And I think eventually people will recognize that trade-off, which is why I think packaged media is going to be around for a very, very long time.
Well, I think people tend to get confused because, the home video industry, they throw in these numbers, and 2K must be better than 4K must be better than 2K. 1080 must be better than 720. This must be better than that. And not that it's not, but you also need these other things. You need the new cord. You need the new receiver. All this other new stuff.
And there are other metrics too, other than just resolution and data rate and all these things they give you. I mean, it's when you look at a movie that looks really, really good, whether it's streamed, whether it's on Blu-ray, whatever the case. It's what you're seeing that looks good is more than just data rate and resolution. There is color space. There is the bit depth of a pixel. There is, the quality of the cabling, the length of the cabling, whether or not you're. It's funny. Sean was even telling me yesterday. He works at CBS now. And they compared all these different streams, right? They compared their feed going to Time Warner, their feed coming out of DirecTV, their feed that was coming off of the over-the-air, the HD over-the-air signal, and the over-the-air signal was still the best. Even if you're going through cable or fiber, you're not necessarily getting. We think, that's where it's going to be the best bandwidth, but not necessarily.
No, and also something too is that. A lot of America, they don't have access to super high-speed internet.
And I think eventually the whole concept of compression, eventually that's going to turn people off. I think as people begin to, as resolution gets better and better and better on packaged media, when people start to see what ultra-high-def Blu-rays look like, and when we move beyond that to some other form of packaged media where you can put more uncompressed data onto a chip or something, or even onto a hard drive, I think people will begin to realize they're making some pretty horrible compromises for the convenience of Netflix. And I think ultimately people are going to, you're going to have those two tiers that I've talked about before, which is the equivalent of the VHS sell-through and rental markets, which is streaming will be your rental for the stuff that you only want to see once. You don't care about quality, but if you want to watch, the Avengers or whatever, Academy Award-winning, mega epic, is all the rage. Whatever the case may be, like The Revenant this year is going to look amazing. No one's going to want to see the Revenant compressed and streaming. You want to see that sucker as amazing as you possibly can. So I think people are going to have their own home servers, and they're going to bypass those data rate internet limitations by just having a really kick-ass home server and a network.
The sad part is that I bet there are people who do want to see The Revenant in their home, and they don't care what it looks like.
Yeah, you know what's true.
That was like that really funny tweet by Albert Brooks, where he says, I forgot what the tweet was, the exact wording, but he's like, just saw Gravity, amazing, can't wait to watch it on my iPhone.
Perfect. With that, we'll be back next week.